What happens when you enter a haunted Pompeii brothel at 3 a.m.? Shocking truth revealed. The air held a thick tension as dawn approached, but what surrounded the brothel and the ghostly remains of Pompeii felt like anything but a sleepy town. It was the witching hour, and those ancient walls seemed to whisper secrets beneath the moon's eerie glow. Shadows slithered, twisting through cracked stones as if they were alive. Some claimed that those who dared to enter would face not just the haunting tales of yesteryear, but the spirits who walked the halls of decadence and despair. Could it be true? What dark mysteries lay inside? The first strangeness revealed itself in the form of exquisite frescoes still vibrant among the ash, drastically different than the faded colors of nearby ruins. Each figure seemed to move, eyes narrowing as if following passerby, faces twisted in expression, some in ecstasy, others in sorrow. A shiver crept up the spine of anyone daring enough to gaze into their painted depths. The smell of ancient incense lingered, twisting through the air like a ghost from the past, tinged with the chemical bite of decay. Each inhale made the hairs on the back of the neck stand tall, lurking footsteps echoed from a dim corner, hot breath against the neck. Was that a draft or something more sinister? The heart raced as the temperature plummeted, and a chill whispered up the spine, tightness gripping the chest. It was impossible to shake off the feeling that eyes were watching from the shadows, no, waiting. There were stories told around campfires, how at 3 a.m., the souls of those who once sought pleasure there still wandered, caught in a loop of their own design. What were they searching for? The curiosity baited thoughts, but fear gripped them like a vice. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The presses of urgency raised the stakes. Suddenly, a low moan echoed from within the brothel's depths. A panic surged. What could it mean? Was it the forgotten voices of the doomed? Or something worse? The adrenaline pumped like a drum, igniting a decision. Nagging questions spiraled. Would they flee, or push forth into shadow and darkness? Ignited by thrill and terror, they took a step forward, crossing the threshold, igniting curiosity as the door creaked open. What would they find in these ghostly halls, beneath the weight of time? Would they discover echoes of pleasure, or horror that would shake the very core of their being? The whispers grew louder, luring them deeper into uncertainty. The moment they stepped through the threshold, the air shifted dramatically. It felt thick, charged with static, pulsing with unseen energy that gripped their lungs. They entered a long, dimly lit corridor, walls adorned with murals so expertly rendered that they appeared to flicker as shadows danced across their surfaces. "Keep going," one of them whispered, her voice barely breaking the silence, the terror barely concealed. But the others hesitated, fear gripping their hearts. And then the sound that seemed to originate from the very walls, an unsettling symphony of moans, laughter twisted into cries, and whispers crawling over each other, disorienting them like a chaotic storm. With trepidation, they moved deeper. A faint light flickered in the distance, illuminating what looked like a small chamber at the end of the hall. It was like a beacon, drawing them in, but it also felt like a trap waiting to close. Each step echoed ominously, mixing with the spectral sounds that surrounded them, creating an unsettling rhythm of anticipation and dread. As they approached, the walls seemed to breathe, patterns shifting as if alive. It became harder to distinguish what was real and what was a hallucination born from unease. They brushed their fingers against the rough stone, feeling an unsettling warmth beneath. Someone gasped as they noticed an outline of a figure complete with an anguished face, trapped in depiction, seemingly reaching out for help. What was this place? The brothel, once a site of primal pleasure, had transformed into a prison of despair, shackled by time. They stepped into the flickering light, revealing a small room with a single ornate bed draped in translucent fabric that shimmered eerily. It looked untouched by the ash that had claimed the surrounding ruins. The scent of incense now mixed with something more unsettling, a putrid mix of desperation and decay. Then, louder than ever, the moans crescendoed. It was an overwhelming wall of sound that pressed against their ears, accompanied by flashes of movement at the edges of vision. Was that a figure darting away, or just a trick of the light? Each heart raced faster, pounding loudly enough to drown out the cacophony of whispers pleading from the shadows. "Maybe we should leave," someone suggested, their voice cracking. But before anyone could reply, the laughter returned, sharp and mocking. Then it stopped. An abrupt silence blanketed the room, suffocating. Time hung in the air like a thick fog, holding them in place. They exchanged frightened glances, uncertainty painting their faces as they processed the impossible truth they were not alone. Suddenly, a woman's silhouette emerged from the corner, standing tall and enveloped in an ethereal glow. She gestured towards the bed with a long, bony finger and whispered words that chilled their very souls. "He waits for you, just like the others." Panic surged anew, hair standing on end as they instinctively stepped back, the shadows seeming to reach for them. Who was she? What did she mean? The air crackled with tension. Then, in an unexpected moment, her expression shifted from eerie calm to sudden rage. She shrieked, and the room vibrated with her voice, releasing dark energies. The figures from the frescoes seemed to lurch into motion, their painted expressions twisting to life with overwhelming horror. Without thinking, they turned, racing towards the doorway, but it felt as if the corridor had elongated. The shadows clawed at them, wrapping tighter around their legs, pulling them back. What had been pleasure now threatened with utmost terror. As they rushed, the low moans grew louder, echoing in their minds like a taunt. The doorway seemed further away, and in that moment of desperation, a horrifying revelation struck. The souls here were not merely trapped, they were hungry, and what they craved was companionship. Would they escape the grasp of this cursed haven, or would they join the spirits who lingered, forever seeking what the living could never understand? The choice loomed before them: the light or the darkness. But as they stumbled toward the door, a shadow crossed their path, blocking the exit. "You have to choose," it hissed. Would it be pleasure or pain? The light flickered one last time as dread hung thick in the air. The shadow loomed, a dark mass pulsating with malevolence. Its voice twisted through their minds, deep and echoing, making the walls tremble around them. "You have to choose," it repeated, emphasizing every chilling syllable. Their breaths quickened, heartbeats pounding like war drums in their chests. Panic wrapped around them like a cold blanket. The corridor was alive, the whispers rising to a piercing chant: "Stay! Stay! Join us!" They shivered as cold sweat trickled down their backs. Emma, always the bravest of the group, took an involuntary step forward. "We're not afraid of you," she shouted, but her voice wavered, betraying her resolve. The shadow grinned, the edges of its being curling into grotesque shapes, mocking her bravado. "Fear is your greatest ally or your worst enemy," it hissed, eyes gleaming like dying embers. Just as suddenly, it lunged, and for a moment, a sharp pain pierced through their collective dread. Slivers of past torments and deep regrets tore at their consciousness. "Remember your past," it murmured, voice dripping with ancient sorrow. Visions flared before their eyes, snapshots of their lives, love lost, friendships shattered, a distant memory of laughter now tinged with the fear of loss. Each recollection clawing deeper into their hearts, pulling them toward the dark figure, urging them to drown in the misery that permeated this cursed place. "Emma, let us go. Now!" Jake yelled, snapping her back from the brink of the abyss. But it was too late. She stood transfixed, haunted by the visages of her past. The shadow was weaving its spell, feeding on her insecurities. "You don't belong here," it whispered sweetly, "you never did." Desperate to save her, Sam grabbed her arm, but his fingers slipped through her haze. "You need to fight it," he pleaded, eyes wide with urgency. "This isn't real, it's just a trick." The laughter started again, distorting from the corners of the room, echoing off the walls like a twisted melody. It filled the air, slicing through the panic, laced with malice. You cannot escape who you are. Join the others. Embrace the endless. Suddenly, the walls around them began to shift, twisting with chaotic movement as if they were alive. Archaic figures began clawing their way out of the murals, their faces twisted in torment, eyes wide with an insatiable hunger for life. This was more than just shadows. This was an army of lost souls, desperate to reclaim what they had lost. A sudden surge of adrenaline coursed through Sam. We have to break the spell, he shouted, his voice rising above the fear. Together. Jake nodded, summoning what remained of his courage. The four of them, hand in hand, formed a circle. They steadied themselves against the onslaught of howling despair and, bracing their minds, they concentrated on the warmth of their friendship, the strength of their bond. A flicker of light spread between them, fragile but fierce against the encroaching dark. Fight for each other, fight for hope. Emma yelled, eyes blazing as she broke free from the shadow's grip. The energy pulsed, brightening, as if defiance had ignited a spark within the darkness. But the shadow was not finished. With a roar that shook their bones, it lunged. You think you can defy me? The ground trembled beneath them, and the figures clawed closer, reaching with twisted limbs. In that moment, desperate and raw, they realized escaping wasn't just about leaving. A choice lay before them, the essence of what they held dear or the chilling emptiness of despair. How to break away fully, to be free. Hold on. They shouted in unison, pushing back against the force trying to pull them under. As the darkness swirled, a brilliant light erupted, blinding them, pushing back the shadows. The figure faltered, shattering momentarily as if scattered by wind. They blinked against the brightness, hearing the shadows' screams receding, but uncertainty loomed thick in the air. Were they breaking free, or merely delaying the inevitable? As the blinding light faded, a chilling question floated in the silence that followed: would they truly escape the horrors of this haunted realm, or would this just be the beginning of their darkest journey? The light dimmed slowly, a reluctant sentinel withdrawing into the recesses of the corridor. Each breath felt heavier now, the echoes of their collective fear lingering like the remnants of a bad dream. Emma clutched at her chest, heart racing, a reminder of how close they had come to losing not just a battle but themselves. Did we do it? Jake's voice was shaky, the relief on his face muddied by doubt. They were no longer in the grip of that shadow, but were they truly free? The walls felt oppressive, curling inward, breathing with treachery. Look! Sam pointed toward the end of the corridor, where the faintest glimmer re-emerged. A soft glow seeped through a cracked door at the far end. Maybe it's a way out, Emma suggested, a flicker of hope illuminating her eyes, battling the darkness that still clung to them. They instinctively formed a tighter circle, inching forward, pushing aside trepidation. As they approached the door, an ominous creak filled the air, followed by a whisper that slithered through the cracks. Turn back, you cannot escape your fate. The words twisted like a serpent, coiling around them. Every fiber in Sam's being told him to step away, yet he gritted his teeth, desperate for answers. Fate? What do you know about us? He shouted defiantly, and for a brief moment, silence washed over them. It felt as if the universe held its breath, waiting for the next move. The door, old and weathered, seemed to breathe, ancient wood straining against the passage of time. They exchanged uncertain glances, a symphony of tension throbbing in the air. Emma reached for the knob, her heart thundering as she twisted it. Suddenly, the door swung open with a loud bang, revealing a dimly lit room. The stale air hit them like ice water, a chill creeping down their spines. Inside, shadows danced on the walls, and in the center stood a table adorned with dusty relics and tattered photographs, images of lives lost, echoes of laughter and tragedy frozen in time. What is this place? Jake whispered, stepping inside. As his foot crossed the threshold, the atmosphere shifted, a palpable force tugging at them. Around the chamber, the whispers grew louder, painful memories swirling and piercing through their minds. Emma gasped as she caught sight of a familiar face, her grandmother's tender smile peeking through the haze of dust. No, not now, Emma murmured, drawn to the photograph like a moth to a flame. "Get away from it!" Sam yelled, yanking her back. The moment he did, the room erupted with a cacophony of screaming voices, anguished cries spiraling around them. Shadows thickened, swallowing the light, and the dark corners seemed to ooze malevolence. They staggered backwards, tripping over each other, frantically seeking an escape. "We shouldn't have come in here," Jake shouted, the air thickening around them. The regrets flooding their minds grew louder, sharper. Memories blurred into one another, until their sense of self felt thin. "This is just a trick," Emma screamed, desperately trying to anchor herself to the moment, to the present. "We're not your toys. We're stronger than this. Think of each other. Remember why we're here," Sam insisted. His voice anchored them, and that flicker of warmth ignited again. Together, they gripped each other's hands, drawing strength from their bond. Then, a shudder thrummed through the floor, a deep, rumbling growl erupted from the shadows. The figures from the walls twisted, and three ghastly apparitions clawed their way into sight, faces distorted in rage and sorrow, reaching for the intruders with outstretched hands. "Leave now or stay forever," they shrieked in unison, the room vibrating with malice. And then came the choice: they could fight or bolt for the door just behind them. Fear clawed at their throats, anchoring them to the spot, but the darkness erupted, ready to claim them as its own. "Fight!" They all yelled in unison, eyes locking in shared determination, a desperate commitment to each other. But as they braced themselves, a blinding light flashed from their clasped hands, illuminating the chamber. The shadows recoiled, shrieking in fury. They could feel the choice press down on them, the very air thick with consequences. Would their light drown out the darkness, or would it merely call forth deeper horrors hidden in the abyss? As the vision of their pasts closed in on them, the struggle for their lives spiraled into chaos. One thought rung like a bell in the depths of their minds: what awaited beyond the door? And could they withstand the cost of their choices? The light flared brighter, pulsing through the room, banishing some shadows, but not all. The necrotic whispers battled against the illumination, attempting to wrap around the friends like chilling arms. The apparitions lingered, faces contorted in anguish, their intentions unclear, but their desperation palpable. Emma, trembling but resolute, tightened her grip on Jake and Sam's hands. "Keep pushing. Don't let go." The force emanating from them felt like a shield against the encroaching darkness. The light swirled around their clasped hands, a radiant warning against the phantoms before them. "Why are they so angry?" Jake's voice wavered, glancing at the figures. "What do they want?" "Our pasts," Emma panted, visions swirling in her mind, faces, names not just her grandmother's, but fragments of conversations, laughter, regrets. "They want us to remember, to acknowledge no. We need to get out of here." Sam's voice rose above the chaos, but he hesitated, eyes locking onto one of the figures. Its visage seemed almost familiar, a reflection of some hidden sorrow. As if feeding off his confusion, the phantom before him transformed into his childhood best friend, long lost to tragedy. "Sam," the figure croaked, "you turned away, you abandoned me. Stop it." Sam's heart raced. The weight of guilt pressed against his chest. "You're not real. Then why do you feel it?" The apparition hissed, the air thickening with tension. The other shadows echoed its words, feeding the pain that rippled through the room. Emotions surged, and past mistakes clawed at them, begging for resolution. "We can't let them in. Let us focus," Emma shouted, her voice a beacon through the storm. They needed to remember why they were here, and who they were fighting for. At that moment, Sam couldn't take it anymore. "I did care," he shouted, the truth spilling from him like a dam crumbling. "I just didn't know how to help." The figure faltered, momentarily relinquishing its grip on him. "You can't escape, it's part of you," it rasped. "Maybe it is. But I want to let you pull me back." Sam pushed against the weight of his own memories, focusing instead on the present, his friends, the fight. With a swift motion, he turned to Emma and Jake. Together, we need to fight this. Remember the things we cherish, the lives we want to live, not lose. The shadows wriggled in protest, the air thick with discontent, yet the light from their hands pulsed in affirmation. As they concentrated, the room responded. The rattle of the past began to fade, ease replaced by an undeniable courage. Whatever the darkness wants from us, it won't win. Emma declared, we're not afraid. We will move forward. With that, the light exploded, shattering the oppressive darkness surrounding them. The ghosts shrieked in anguish, their forms vanishing like thick smoke. The chamber vibrated as if the walls themselves sought to reshape, to shed the immense weight of sorrow. The room began to crack, and they stumbled backward, the shifting pieces forming a new reality. The door they had come through flickered, and standing before it was a gleaming path, bathed in the light of dawn, offering hope while reminding them of the fight within. Do you see that? Jake gasped, pointing to the opening, a gateway to something beyond. But just as hope reignited, a sudden tremor hit the ground beneath them. The very foundation of the room began to shake violently. Emma, hold on. Sam shouted as he instinctively pulled her back. The walls buckled, splintering, shifting toward a darker void. No. We have to go. She screamed, panic creeping back into her voice. The corridor they thought would lead them out was collapsing, they needed to decide, and fast. Flee through the shuddering door or confront the darkness clawing at their sanity? With hearts pounding like war drums, the choice lay heavy in the air. Will we return to the surface, or descend deeper into the unknown? Time seemed to stretch, and each second felt like an eternity. The path ahead shimmered with possibility, but what evils remained? And in that moment of overwhelming choice, a chilling realization pierced through their resolve. What if escaping meant leaving someone behind? Before they could process the implications, the ground lurched again, and all hope hung in the balance. The ground shook violently, sending shockwaves of fear rippling through the trio. A cacophony of cracking plaster and splintering would drown out their thoughts. Emma's heart raced as she glanced around, searching for any sign of a way out, any flicker of hope that might lead them to safety. Sam! We can't split up. She shouted over the din. Their voices were almost swallowed by the roaring chaos, but the urgency in her tone cut through. Sam began, but the room trembled again, pushing against him, testing his resolve. We have no choice. Jake yelled, glancing at the shimmering pathway flickering like an oasis before them. We go through. Now. But the walls seemed to lean in, constricting around them, as if rejecting their escape and wanting to trap them in a cycle of torment. The spectral whispers returned, haunting their ears like a sinister lullaby. Stay forever no. Emma squeezed her eyes shut, rising above the noise with determination. We will not be kept here. Not now. The light they had summoned hummed with power, casting a protective aura around them, flickering in time with their pounding hearts. But the darkness pulsed back, threatening to swallow them whole. Think of the memories we cherish. Sam shouted, forcing himself to look away from the shadowy faces clawing at him. Focus on family, love, anything that brings us peace. With every word, he felt the ragged edges of his guilt begin to dull. The specter of his childhood friend screamed, its agony piercing through the veil of light. You can't leave me. It lunged forward, clawing at his thoughts. Sam's chest tightened, but he pushed it away. No. He bellowed, his voice breaking through the chilling whispers. I want to be your prisoner. Emma shouted back, her fierce determination igniting a fire in her friends. Together. We remember our strength. Reaching deep within, Sam closed his eyes, channeling the warmth of cherished moments, recreating the laughter of his best friend, their shared dreams and adventures. The shadows faltered for a heartbeat, their grasp loosening around him. Suddenly, Jake yelled, Emma! Look! Through the chaos, a brilliant flash emerged from the light-filled corridor. It expanded, a crack in the dark veil of despair. It was a chance and opportunity that beckoned. Go. Now. Jake urged, fear igniting his words. Gripping both their hands tightly, Emma surged forward, dragging her friends toward the luminous exit. The rumbling intensified, but their momentum carved a path through the shadows that fought desperately to hold them back. In that moment, everything shifted. The specters howled, morphing into twisted snarls of fury as the light swallowed them whole, evaporating their hatred and guilt into nothingness. But just as they reached the threshold, a shadow darted forward, wrapping around Jake's leg like a serpent. No! You can't leave me! Panicked, Emma cried, Jake, we have to keep going. No! Jake strained against the darkness, eyes wide with horror. I can't let it take me. Desperation surged within Sam and Emma. They couldn't lose another friend, not now. Jake! Emma's voice broke. Fight it. Remember us. Tears streamed down Jake's face as he looked back, deep in the throes of his own despair. I can't. It won't let me go. Time slowed as shadows clawed upward, seeking to drag Jake back into the void. The two friends stood powerless, torn between their urge to flee and the bond that held them together. Just when it felt like the darkness would consume them whole, a searing pulse of light erupted around them. But would it be enough to rescue a friend from the depths of anguish? Would they bind together in this moment or splinter apart, haunted relentlessly by the choices they didn't make? The air crackled with impending resolve as they held on, the ultimate choice looming dangerously over them. Could they outrun the darkness within? Or would it claim one of them forever? The moment felt suspended in time, a heartbeat stretched thin. The shadows writhed like angry serpents grasping at Jake, pulling him down into a pit of despair. Emma's throat constricted, and Sam's breath caught. It didn't matter how bright the light was, darkness had a way of fighting back its tendrils, relentless and grasping. Jake! Emma yelled again, panic surging through her. You have to fight. She squeezed his hands tighter, grounding him. Remember the summer at the lake? We all laughed until we cried. Sam added, his voice shaking with urgency, we're not leaving without you. You're not alone. Think of our dreams. The memories they shared surged around them like a warm embrace, but Jake was losing the battle. The darkness coiled tighter, pulling him lower. His eyes were wide with horror, but they were also filled with a painful flicker of hope, a spark almost extinguished. Without thinking, Emma lunged forward, pushing against the dark force with her own body. I'll never let you go, Jake. Your family. The sheer force of her determination fed the light around them, making it pulse faster, brighter. The shadows shrieked, retreating for a brief moment, but they surged back, angrier than before. Jake writhed in a fight not just against the tendrils but against his own doubt. Memories plagued him, the shadows whispering voices of guilt, shame, and loss. You don't deserve freedom, they hissed. You let them down. In that moment, Emma sensed a flicker of doubt shift inside her. Was it true? Did they all deserve to escape the horrors of their past? Could they really outrun the darkness that bound them? But she shook her head, her heart pounding louder than any whisper. No. That's not true. She shouted, forcing her own fears aside. Jake, you're stronger than this. She felt the warmth of their bond resonate in her voice, a fierce promise they had all cherished. We will overcome this together. His face slackened for a moment. The darkness writhed but faltered as the memories began to heal rather than haunt him. Jake focused on Emma's unwavering gaze, the warmth of their friendship tearing at the shadows consuming him. His voice trembled, clear but strained against the grip of despair. Keep fighting. Sam yelled, letting go of Emma's hand momentarily to grab Jake's other arm, tearing it away from the shadows entwined around him. They were all pulling against loss. Every ounce of courage, support, and love surged as they focused on the one truth binding them together. they could fight anything. With a final surge, the trio strained against the encroaching darkness, and the light erupted around them, a blinding flash that threatened to consume them. The howling shadows shrieked in agony, dissolving into wisps of despair that scattered like ash in a gale. Suddenly, the world shifted. The ground quaked beneath their feet, not as a threat this time, but as a call, a chance to escape. The shimmering path flickered like a beacon behind them, illuminating a way out of the chaos that had clawed at their lives, but just as they prepared to surge forward, a chilling voice echoed from the abyss, one that was somehow familiar yet utterly alien. "You think you can escape? You don't understand what lies beyond." The trio halted, fear rushing back as a figure emerged from the darkness. It was cloaked, its face obscured, yet they could feel its malevolence seep into their bones. "Only the brave leave," it hissed, "and only the foolish return." The shadows danced around it, pulsing like a heartbeat, taunting them, holding their past and future in its grasp. Emma's heart raced as she looked at Sam and Jake, uncertainty clouding their shared hope. What awaited them on the other side? "We're ready," Jake declared, his voice steady, laced with defiance as he took a step forward. "Are we?" Emma whispered, her voice laced with both doubt and determination. What would await them if they took that leap into the light? Would it carry them to safety, or lead them deeper into a darker web? The moment stretched, fragile and precarious, as they prepared to plunge into the unknown. But would they find redemption, or would they realize too late the true nature of their haunting? The cloaked figure loomed before them, a dark silhouette against the fading light. Its presence felt like ice sliding down their spines, chilling them to the bone. Jake steadied himself, wrinkling his brow, trying to read the face that remained hidden. What did it want? Only the brave leave. The figure's voice spun around them, dripping with malice. It felt almost personal, as if it wasn't just speaking to the three friends, but to the core of their fears. Emma exchanged glances with Sam and Jake. They were no longer just fighting for themselves, they were fighting for each other, and for all the memories that bound them. Memories that balanced on the edge of happiness and despair. What's beyond? Emma dared to ask, her heart pounding like a drum. The shadow shifted slightly, its malevolent energy crackling in the silence. A world where the truth reveals itself in full. Do you desire to uncover your past? I can grant you that, it hissed, a laugh echoing behind its whispering mask. Uncover our past? Jake clenched his fists. Why would we want to revisit our pain? He felt a surge of anger, he wouldn't let it tempt him with echoes of guilt and remorse. Every person carries shadows. Every moment lost brings forth a choice: face it or let it consume you. You seek freedom, but it comes at a cost. The figure's tone shifted, becoming almost eerily sing-song. Emma felt the ground waver beneath their feet, the pulsing light dimming as the spectre's words resonated in the hollow of her chest. A cost? What kind of choices awaited them? Don't listen to it. Sam shouted, his voice rising above the murmurs of the darkness. We've fought to escape. We'll not fall back into the shadows, we're moving forward. But the cloaked figure merely smiled, the outline of its mouth twisting into a malicious grin. Ah, but what if you cannot move forward until you accept what's left behind? Are you willing to confront it? Jake's heart raced. He turned to Sam and Emma, his resolve hardening. No more running. We face this together. With his words, he stepped forward, the light flaring back to life, illuminating the path behind them. The shadows hissed around the edges, retreating as if stung by their defiance. Together Emma echoed, fear still echoing in her voice, but a strange sense of bravery blossomed in her chest. They couldn't let the past define them. You think you're ready? The hunger behind the figure's voice grew, nearly palpable. The realities you'll face if you take that leap. What's worse than what we already carry? Sam countered, his determination pressing against the darkness. A tendril of shadow snaked towards them, a final lunge, but they held their ground. Let us go, Jake urged, stepping closer to the light. Its warmth soaked into him like a protective shield, and with that, they leapt forward, the shadows screaming behind them as they crossed the threshold. The moment they stepped into the light, everything shifted. The world dissolved around them, and the echoes of laughter turned to whispers, images flickering at the corners of their vision. Welcome to the truth. The cloaked figure lured from the darkness, its shadowy tendril stretching after them. They stumbled into a new realm, their hearts racing. Emma gasped as familiar faces and forgotten memories whirled into view, but there was something different about them. A twist of fate. Where were they? And then, as realization gripped them, a horrifying question loomed in the air. What if the truth was more painful than the darkness they tried to escape? A pulse of uncertainty thrummed through them as they stood at the crossroads of their past, a looming dread taking form. Would they be able to face the truth head-on, or would they regret the leap they took into this new realm? As shadows danced at the edges of this new world, they could only hope they had made the right choice. Everything around them felt distorted, like a warped reflection of a world they once knew. Crumbling buildings towered, their faces grimy with age, while whispers of laughter twisted through the still air. Emma's heart pounded. She felt as if they had stepped into a painting turned alive with colors too vivid, details too sharp. Where is this place? She murmured, stepping cautiously over rubble that crunched beneath her feet. Each footfall echoed, amplifying her sense of dread. Jake pulled up alongside her, scanning the eerily familiar scene, something stirring in his gut. Looks like parts of our childhood. The old playground? But it can't be, Sam argued, eyes wide with disbelief. It looks like our memories, but twisted. Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught Emma's eye. She turned, and for a brief moment, she thought she saw someone, a young girl, her face smudged with dirt, standing beneath a flickering street lamp. She wore an old-fashioned dress, colors muted as if faded by time. Moments later, the girl dissolved into the shadows, leaving only a lingering chill in the air. Did you see that? Emma gasped, clutching Jake's arm tightly. Yeah, but we can't get distracted, Jake replied, his voice steady but taut. We have to keep moving. They pressed on, drawn in by the surreal landscape. Each corner turned revealed snippets of another time: a boy flying a kite, a mother calling for her child, laughter mingling with shouts of joy. These moments felt familiar yet clothed in a film of loss, an unsettling reminder of what had once been. A sudden chill enveloped them, harder than before. The air thickened as shadows wove themselves into the fabric of the memories surrounding them. Emma shivered, her mind racing. What if we're meant to face this? What if we're here to confront? Sam cut her off, his voice brittle. Our regrets? Our fears? The shadows trembled, seeming to listen, to pulse with anticipation. They could almost hear the whispers of their past, the choices they made, the words left unsaid, the friendships fractured by time and distance. Jake halted, his breath catching. Ahead, a structure loomed, once bright, now a mere husk, a remnant of what it used to be. Look at that. The old diner. We spent countless nights there. As they approached, a sinister energy crackled in the air. The diner's neon sign flickered, the Truth Cafe. Sam's face turned pale. What does that mean? Maybe it's where we uncover our biggest regrets, Emma replied, dread creeping into her bones. It's where we'll have to confront it all. The moment they stepped inside, the door creaked ominously behind them, sealing whatever choice lay ahead. The interior was dimly lit, yet the vivid images flickered on the walls: arguments, broken promises, laughter turned hollow. Every piece of their past screamed at them, and it felt suffocating. Suddenly, a voice echoed from the far corner, smooth yet laced with danger. Welcome back. You've come to face the truth, have you? All three friends turned sharply, and there stood a figure cloaked in familiar darkness, eerily resembling the figure from before but now cloaked in more detail, whispers swirling around it like a storm. What do you want? Jake demanded, clenching his fists. Only what you have always avoided, the real cost of your choices, it replied, the malice dripping off each syllable. Apprehension tied knots in Emma's stomach. We want to move forward. We're not afraid. Ah, but are you ready to face what you've hidden? The others fell silent as the shadows began to writhe, revealing fragments of their past, the faces they lost, the secrets they betrayed. Is this what freedom costs? Sam whispered, eyes wide as realization dawned upon him. With the weight of their revelations pressing down harder than ever, the specter beckoned them closer. The shadows pulsed, demanding their reverence, urging them to take a step further towards the truth. As they stood at the precipice of revelation, one question loomed larger than anything else: could they handle the truth when it felt more terrifying than the shadows they thought they had left behind? And the figure smiled, its eyes glinting with dark promise, as the diner's lights began to flicker wildly. Let us find out. The gaunt figure of the cloaked specter loomed larger, the shadows around it writhing like restless spirits. Emma, Jake, and Sam's collective fear hung in the air, thick enough to taste. They knew they had come too far to turn back. Memories twisted around them like vines, each a thorn pressed into their hearts. What have you hidden? The figure whispered, voice smooth yet harsh as gravel. It felt as though the shadows were reaching out, eager to uncover every buried secret. Are you prepared to confront your own darkness? Sam's voice shook, but he rallied, we're not afraid. We've faced the shadows before. Show us. Show you? The specter laughed, the sound sending chills down Emma's spine. Very well, but know that truths are fragile, easily shattered yet painfully visible. The lights flickered above them, illuminating visions writhing in a tapestry of their past. The trio wanted to shield themselves, but they were held in place, eyes glued to the display. A table appeared from thin air, a familiar one from the diner. They saw themselves as younger versions, full of laughter yet brimming with unspoken words. Emma watched as her past self said something unkind, a moment lost to anger that lingered. She grimaced, feeling guilt anchor her feet. Stop! She cried, but the scene continued, shadowed whispers weaving through the air. No, it wasn't just me. Ah, but you chose that moment. You allowed the fear and doubt to guide your actions. The specter hissed, eyes glinting. Face the cost of your silence. You must accept it to be free. Suddenly, Jake's vision split. A moment in the past where he hesitated to help a friend in need played out before him, a friend lost to despair. The anguish in that scene sliced through him like ice. Jake, remember that night? Emma urged, breaking the spell momentarily. You did all you could. But doubt crept in, relentless. Did I? Maybe I could have saved him. Maybe it's my fault he's gone. The shadows whispered back, blending their fears like a haunting chorus. You didn't save him, and you ran away. No. Jake roared defiantly, but his past self faltered, grief twisting his insecurities anew. The specter stepped closer, the past feeds upon your regrets, each shadow fuels your fears. And our choice? Sam interjected, voice filled with defiance. He felt a wave of energy he hadn't realized was boiling beneath the surface. Emotions poured forth, grounding him. Sam! Emma shouted, drawing closer to him, hands clenching in solidarity. You need to remind him of everything. Nodding resolutely, Sam focused on Jake. You're here now. You have the strength to protect those you care about. You can't blame yourself for every choice made. The air crackled between them, flickering light enveloping Jake's anguish and feeding it back into the harsh truths that needed acceptance. The shadows hissed, bristling at Sam's words. You can't escape what you are. No, Jake cried, his voice matching the surge of energy filled with intention. I'll decide what I carry. I get to choose who I want to be. In unison, Emma and Sam joined him, closing ranks. Together. They shouted. The tapestry of their pasts shifted, shadows recoiling momentarily as the brightness of the three friends melded, intertwining their spirits. The diner's walls began to crack, shimmering with energy. Face us. The spectre screamed, the malice now frantic. "You'll always bear those shadows." "Maybe," Emma admitted, but her voice was resolute. "But I acknowledge them. They don't define us." With that, a wave of their combined resolve burst forth, washing over the spectre, illuminating the diner with blinding light. The shadow shrieked, desperate and furious, while the trio's intentions collided with vibrating force. The darkness swirled, thrashing against the light, but as it did, the memories began to flicker and fade, replaced by their bonds that promised courage, acceptance, and understanding. "Let go!" Jake yelled, redirecting the raw energy to push the remnants of darkness away, melting away the burdens that had weighed them down for so long. The spectre let out an agonizing wail, edging back as the radiance consumed it, dissolving the shadows that reached for the trio. They elevated, thrusting through the encroaching darkness, their hearts lightening with every gasp. The diner transformed before their eyes, merging the memories joyful and sorrowful into something new, reclaiming their pasts, reshaping what lay forward. As they rushed back through the doorway, sunlight filtered through cracks, warmer than they had encountered in ages, and the door burst open, revealing a bright landscape ahead. "Are we free?" Emma breathed, heart pounding fiercely. "I think so," Sam replied, glancing back at the dimly lit diner that now stood quiet. "But we must carry our truths, not for chains, but as lessons. Then let us move forward." Jake concluded, his voice radiant with hope. Together, hand in hand, they stepped into a world reborn, the haunted echoes of Pompeii fading into the distance, the sun gleaming stronger ahead. Another moment of truth waiting just beyond the horizon. Now was the moment to embrace their freedom. Through trials faced and battles won, they had emerged, and the past would no longer have power over them. Now, before you leave, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will blow your mind. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending, because we want to hear from you, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to connect with fellow fans. Let us spread the word.